The quantum communication device buzzed with an urgent signal in the depths of Earth Defense Command. Admiral Jake Morrison looked up from his morning coffee as the bright blue light filled the communications room. The device had been silent for months since humanity first detected alien signals from deep space. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Parker, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "It's coming from the same source as before, but this signal is much stronger." Morrison walked over to the main screen as the alien message began to translate. The computer worked hard to convert the strange symbols into English text. What appeared on the screen made Morrison raise his eyebrows. "Greetings to the newest sapient species of the third planet orbiting the star you call Sol," the message began. "The Galactic Council extends an invitation for first contact protocols. You will send no more than 3 representatives in a small shuttlecraft to the neutral station Nexus Prime. Coordinates are attached. Please follow all safety protocols for primitive civilizations." Morrison read the message twice, his jaw tightening with each word. The tone was polite but condescending, like adults talking to children. The aliens clearly thought humans were some kind of simple, backward species that needed careful handling. "Primitive civilizations," Morrison muttered. "They think we just discovered fire." Lieutenant Parker pulled up the intelligence files they had gathered over the past year. Hidden human reconnaissance ships had been watching alien space from a safe distance, learning about their technology and society. The reports painted a clear picture of the Galactic Council. "According to our data, sir, the Council has 12 member species. None of them have fought a real war in over 2,000 years. They seem to prefer talking and trading over fighting." Morrison nodded as he reviewed the files. The aliens had impressive cities and beautiful ships, but their military technology looked outdated. Their weapons were designed more for show than actual combat. Most interesting of all, they seemed to have no idea that humans had been watching them. "They expect a shuttle," Morrison said with a slight smile. 3 scared humans in a tiny ship begging to join their club. He walked to the window overlooking the massive shipyard below. Dozens of human warships hung in space like sleeping giants. The newest and most powerful was the UES Thunderstrike, a destroyer that represented the best of human engineering and military thinking. Captain Lisa Brooks commanded the Thunderstrike. She was known throughout the fleet as someone who got things done. Morrison had watched her rise through the ranks, earning respect through skill and determination rather than politics. "Get me Captain Brooks," Morrison ordered. The main screen switched to show Brooks on the bridge of her ship. She stood tall in her blue uniform, her short brown hair neat and professional. Behind her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. "Admiral," Brooks said with a crisp salute, "what can I do for you?" Morrison forwarded the alien message to her ship. "Read this and tell me what you think." Brooks studied the message for a full minute, her expression growing more serious with each line. "They want us to crawl to them like beggars," she said finally. "Send 3 people in a shuttle and hope they accept us." "That's exactly what I thought. The question is, what should we do about it?" Brooks smiled, and Morrison recognized the look in her eyes. It was the same expression she wore before every successful mission. "Permission to volunteer for this diplomatic mission, sir." "In the Thunderstrike?" "That's not exactly a shuttle." "No, sir, it's not. But I think it's time these aliens learned what humans are really capable of. They've been watching us for who knows how long, making assumptions about our technology and our intentions. Maybe it's time we surprise them." Morrison considered the idea. The Thunderstrike was a massive ship, nearly 1 kilometer long and armed with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. It carried a crew of 800 and enough firepower to level a moon. Calling it a shuttle would be like calling a hurricane a gentle breeze. "The diplomatic corps won't like it," Morrison said. "They prefer the careful approach." "With respect, sir, the careful approach is what got us this condescending invitation. These aliens think we're primitives. Let's show them they're wrong." Morrison made his decision. "Very well, Captain. Your ship is now officially designated as Earth's diplomatic shuttle. I'll select the diplomatic team and brief them on the mission parameters." "Thank you, sir. When do we leave?" "As soon as possible." "And Captain, make sure your ship is ready for anything. We don't know how these aliens will react when they see what we consider a shuttle." After ending the call, Morrison turned to Lieutenant Parker. "Contact Ambassador Rick Carter. Tell him he's going on a diplomatic mission. Also get Dr. Kate Sullivan from the Xenobiology Department and Colonel Ben Hayes from Marine Command." "Yes, sir." Should I tell them about the ship they'll be traveling on? Morrison smiled. Let it be a surprise. Also, send a message to our reconnaissance teams. I want to know everything about this Nexus Prime station before we arrive. Over the next few hours, Morrison briefed the diplomatic team. Ambassador Carter was a former Marine who had turned to diplomacy after losing a leg in the Mars conflicts. He was smart, tough, and not easily impressed. Dr. Sullivan was the leading expert on alien biology, having studied every piece of alien technology humans had secretly acquired. Colonel Hayes was a soldier's soldier, someone who could fight with words or weapons as the situation required. Our goals are simple, Morrison explained to the team. Make first contact, establish peaceful relations if possible, and show these aliens that humanity is not some primitive species they can push around. Carter nodded. What are our orders if they try to dictate terms to us? Politely decline and make it clear that we prefer to negotiate as equals. The Thunderstrike should help make that point. Dr. Sullivan looked confused. The Thunderstrike? Isn't that Captain Brooks' destroyer? It is. It's also your transportation to this meeting. The aliens asked for a shuttle. We're giving them our version of one. Colonel Hayes grinned. This should be interesting. As the Thunderstrike prepared for departure, Morrison watched from the command center. The massive ship powered up its engines, energy coursing through its hull like lightning. This was humanity's answer to the aliens' invitation. Not 3 frightened primitives in a tiny shuttle, but 800 trained professionals in the most advanced warship ever built. The Thunderstrike jumped to hyperspace, carrying Earth's message to the stars. The aliens expected a shuttle. They were about to learn that human shuttles were different from anything they had ever imagined. Space around Nexus Prime was usually quiet and peaceful. The massive station hung in the void like a silver flower, its many arms reaching out to dock ships from across the galaxy. Alien vessels of all shapes and sizes moved slowly between the docking ports, their crews following careful traffic control patterns. Station Commander Veltar stood in the main control room, his crystalline skin reflecting the soft lights of the control panels. As an Etherian, he was used to calm, orderly situations. His species had been running Nexus Prime for over 300 years without any major incidents. Commander, called Traffic Controller Nixara from her station. We have the human shuttle on sensors. It should arrive in about 10 minutes. Veltar nodded. He had been looking forward to this moment for weeks. First contact with a new species was always exciting. Even if the humans seemed to be a primitive race, the Council had prepared a simple welcome ceremony. Nothing too complicated for beings who had probably just learned to travel between stars. Make sure Docking Bay 7 is ready, Veltar said. The small one should be perfect for their shuttle. He looked out the main window at the peaceful scene outside. A few Zephyrian trade ships were unloading cargo, while an elegant Canthari cruiser waited patiently for permission to dock. Everything was normal and quiet. Then space exploded with light. The UES Thunderstrike dropped out of hyperspace like a falling mountain. The massive human destroyer materialized less than a kilometer from the station, its dark hull gleaming with advanced armor plating. The ship was enormous, dwarfing every vessel in the area. What is that? Nixara gasped, her 4 hands flying across her control panel. Veltar stared at the human ship in shock. It was bigger than most alien battleships, bristling with weapon arrays and sensor equipment. This was no shuttle. This was a warship that could probably destroy half the station if it wanted to. Sir, Nixara said, her voice shaking. The humans are hailing us. Put them through, Veltar managed to say. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the human ship. A woman in a blue uniform stood at the center, her expression calm and professional. Behind her, Veltar could see dozens of crew members working at advanced control stations. Nexus Prime Control. This is Captain Lisa Brooks of the UES Thunderstrike, requesting permission to dock for diplomatic purposes, the human said. Her voice was steady and polite, as if commanding a massive warship was the most natural thing in the world. Veltar found his voice. Captain Brooks, we were expecting a small shuttle with 3 representatives. Brooks smiled slightly. We are the diplomatic shuttle, Commander. I have Ambassador Carter and his team aboard, ready for the first contact ceremony. Your ship is quite large for a shuttle. This is actually one of our smaller vessels, Commander. I hope that won't be a problem. Veltar looked at his crew, all of whom were staring at the human ship with wide eyes. Several alien vessels in the area had already begun moving away from the destroyer, clearly nervous about its presence. Docking Bay 7 won't be adequate, Veltar said weakly. We can dock at your main military port if that would be easier. The Thunderstrike is designed for flexible operations. Veltar realized he had no choice. Very well, Captain. Please proceed to docking port 1. That's our largest facility. As the human destroyer began moving toward the station, Veltar opened emergency channels to the Galactic Council members aboard the station. Within minutes, his communication board was lighting up with urgent calls. Commander, what is that thing? Demanded General Thrakon of the Kanthari military. The humans call it a shuttle, Veltar replied, still not quite believing it himself. A shuttle? That's larger than our heavy cruisers. Speaker Zethmos appeared on another channel, his ancient face creased with worry. Commander, please tell me this is some kind of mistake. I don't think so, Speaker. The humans seem to consider this normal. The Thunderstrike moved with surprising grace for such a large vessel. Its engines glowed with controlled power as it aligned with the docking port. Veltar watched nervously as the massive ship connected with the station. The docking clamps, designed for the largest alien vessels, barely managed to secure the destroyer's hull. Docking complete, Captain Brooks reported. We're ready to send over our diplomatic team. Veltar tried to regain his composure. Very well, Captain. Our security team will escort your representatives to the assembly hall. 20 minutes later, the human delegation emerged from their airlock. Ambassador Rick Carter walked with the confident stride of someone used to difficult situations. Despite his artificial leg, he moved with military precision. Dr. Kate Sullivan followed, carrying a case of scientific equipment and looking around with obvious curiosity. Colonel Ben Hayes brought up the rear, his sharp eyes taking in every detail of the station's security. The alien escort team, led by Security Chief Mordak, seemed nervous as they guided the humans through the station corridors. Other aliens stopped to stare as the delegation passed. Word was already spreading about the massive human warship docked at Port 1. Your station is quite impressive, Ambassador Carter said to Mordak as they walked. How long did it take to build? 50 years, Mordak replied. It was a joint project between 6 species. Fascinating. We built something similar in the Alpha Centauri system, but it only took us 8 years. Mordak stumbled slightly. 8 years? The humans could build a station like Nexus Prime in 8 years. Dr. Sullivan was studying everything with scientific interest. The artificial gravity system is elegant, she commented. Though I notice you're still using magnetic field generators, we found that quantum manipulation works better for large structures. Colonel Hayes nodded approvingly at the security measures. Good sight lines, multiple escape routes. Your people know what they're doing. He paused, though you might want to upgrade those plasma rifles. The power output seems a bit low. By the time they reached the assembly hall, news of the human arrival had spread throughout the station. Representatives from all 12 council species were waiting, along with various officials and observers. They had prepared for a simple first contact ceremony with a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves facing humans who spoke casually about building space stations and critiquing alien weapons technology, backed by a warship that could probably conquer half the galaxy. Ambassador Carter stepped forward and gave a polite bow. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, I am Rick Carter, representing the United Earth government. Thank you for inviting us to this historic meeting. Speaker Zethmos stood to respond, but his prepared speech about welcoming primitive newcomers suddenly seemed very inappropriate. He looked at the humans, then at the massive ship visible through the assembly hall's windows, and realized that everything the council thought they knew about humanity was probably wrong. The first contact ceremony was about to begin, but it was clear that this would be very different from what anyone had expected. The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime had been decorated for a simple ceremony. Colorful banners from the 12 council species hung from the walls, and a small podium had been set up for the welcoming speech. The alien representatives sat in comfortable chairs arranged in a semicircle, all prepared to meet humanity's first ambassadors. Speaker Zethmos adjusted his ceremonial robes as he walked to the podium. He was the oldest member of the Galactic Council, having served for over 200 years. His weathered face showed the wisdom of his advanced age, and his voice usually commanded respect throughout the galaxy. Today, however, he felt uncertain. The massive human warship visible through the hall's windows had changed everything. The speech he had prepared suddenly seemed wrong for the situation. "Welcome, representatives of humanity," Zethmos began, speaking slowly and clearly. "We greet you as the newest members of the galactic community. We understand that space travel is still new to your species, so we will help you learn the proper ways to behave among the stars." He paused, looking at the three humans standing before him. They listened politely, but their expression suggested they found his words amusing rather than helpful. "Your people have taken an important first step by reaching out to us," Zethmos continued. "We will teach you about trade, diplomacy, and peaceful cooperation. Think of this as learning to take baby steps before you can walk among the civilized species of the galaxy." Ambassador Carter stepped forward with a slight smile. "Thank you for your kind words, Speaker Zethmos. However, I think there may be some misunderstanding about humanity's current situation." The aliens leaned forward, curious about what the human diplomat would say. "Humanity has already established colonies in 17 star systems," Carter said calmly. "Our terraforming technology has created new worlds capable of supporting billions of people. Our exploration fleets have mapped over 200 star systems, and our trade networks span dozens of light years." A murmur ran through the alien representatives. 17 systems. Most species took centuries to establish that many colonies. Dr. Sullivan stepped forward, activating a holographic projector she had brought from the ship. Three-dimensional images filled the air above her head, showing human cities, space stations, and industrial complexes. "These are our fusion reactors," she explained, pointing to massive cylindrical structures. "Each one produces enough energy to power a planet. Our quantum computers can process more information in 1 second than most species handle in a year." The hologram changed to show genetic engineering laboratories. "We've created new forms of life to help terraform worlds. These organisms can transform hostile atmospheres into breathable air in just a few decades." Trade Representative Kixara of the Zephyrian Federation stood up, her tentacles waving nervously. "This technology, how long has your species possessed it?" "We developed fusion power about 60 years ago," Dr. Sullivan replied. "Quantum computing came 30 years later, and our current terraforming techniques are only about 15 years old." The aliens exchanged worried glances. Humanity was advancing much faster than any species in recorded history. Colonel Hayes spoke for the first time. "The Thunderstrike, which brought us here, is classified as a light destroyer in our fleet. We have ships 3 times larger for deep space operations. General Thrakon of the Canthari Empire couldn't stay quiet any longer." "You claim to have an entire fleet? How many ships are we talking about?" "The Earth Defense Force currently operates over 200 combat vessels," Hayes answered matter-of-factly. "That doesn't include our exploration ships, cargo transports, or colonial defense forces." The silence in the hall was deafening. The Galactic Council's combined fleets barely numbered 300 ships, and most of those were designed for patrol duties rather than actual combat. Speaker Zethmos cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "These claims are quite impressive, but surely your species must lack experience in interstellar politics and trade." Ambassador Carter activated his own datapad, displaying economic figures. "Our gross interstellar product has grown by 40% over the past 5 years. We currently trade with 3 independent species that aren't part of the Galactic Council, and our mining operations produce more rare elements than most star systems use in a decade." The Etherian cultural minister, Sarthala, spoke up with her musical voice. "But surely you lack the social development for true civilization. How do you handle conflicts between different groups on your worlds?" "We've had our share of wars," Carter admitted, "but we learned from them. Our current government represents over 30 billion humans across 17 worlds, all working together for common goals," Dr. Sullivan added. "We've also been studying your species for the past year through long-range observation. Your social structures are quite interesting, though we were surprised by the lack of military preparation among council members." Veltar, who had been listening from the back of the hall, spoke up. "You've been watching us?" "Of course," Hayes said. "Standard procedure when encountering unknown civilizations. We needed to understand your technology levels, social structures, and potential threats before making contact." The aliens were beginning to understand that they had badly misjudged humanity. These weren't primitive newcomers who needed guidance. These were potentially the most advanced species any of them had ever encountered. Trade Representative Kixara tried a different approach. "Well then, Perhaps we can offer you junior membership in the Galactic Council. You would have limited voting rights and restricted access to certain trade routes, but it would be a good way for your species to learn our ways. Ambassador Carter's expression didn't change, but something cold appeared in his eyes. We appreciate the offer, but humanity prefers to negotiate as equals. We're not interested in junior partnerships or restricted access. Then what do you want? Speaker Zethmos asked. Full membership with equal voting rights, open trade relationships, and mutual defense agreements with any species that choose to partner with us, Carter replied. We're also willing to share some of our technology with council members who prove to be reliable allies. The offer of human technology sent a wave of excitement through the alien representatives. If humanity really possessed the advanced capabilities they claimed, access to that knowledge could revolutionize galactic civilization. General Thrakon stood up, his military bearing evident despite his diplomatic role. These are bold claims, Ambassador Carter, but words are easy to speak. How do we know your species actually possesses these capabilities? Colonel Hayes smiled. Would you like a demonstration? The suggestion made several aliens nervous, but Thrakon's pride wouldn't let him back down. Yes, show us what your light destroyer can actually do. Captain Brooks' voice came through the communication system. Ambassador, we're ready to conduct a systems demonstration if you think it would be helpful. Carter looked around the room at the alien faces. Some showed curiosity, others worry, and a few displayed outright fear. Very well. I think it's time you saw what human engineering can accomplish. As the group moved to the observation deck to watch the demonstration, none of the aliens realized that their entire understanding of galactic power was about to change forever. The humans had tried diplomacy first, but if the aliens wanted proof of human capabilities, they were about to get more than they bargained for. The observation deck of Nexus Prime offered a perfect view of the space around the station. Through the massive transparent walls, the alien representatives could see their various ships floating peacefully in the void. The human destroyer Thunderstrike dominated the scene, its dark hull making the other vessels look like toys in comparison. General Thrakon stood with his arms crossed, trying to project confidence despite the growing unease in his stomach. As the military representative of the Kanthari Empire, he had seen many impressive warships over his long career, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer size and obvious power of the human vessel. Your ship is certainly large, Thrakon said to Colonel Hayes, but size isn't everything in space combat. What matters is firepower, shields, and the skill of the crew. Hayes nodded respectfully. You're absolutely right, General. Would you like to see our capabilities in those areas? Before Thrakon could answer, Captain Brooks's voice filled the observation deck through the communication system. Nexus Prime Control, this is the Thunderstrike requesting permission to conduct routine systems checks. We'll be moving to a safe distance to avoid any interference with station operations. Commander Veltar, who had joined the group on the observation deck, quickly granted permission. He wanted the human ship as far from his station as possible during whatever demonstration they had planned. The Thunderstrike detached from the docking port with smooth precision. Its engines glowed brighter as the massive destroyer moved away from the station. When it reached a distance of 50 kilometers, it came to a complete stop. Thunderstrike to diplomatic team, Brooks announced. We're ready to begin the demonstration. First test will be our targeting systems. Through the observation deck windows, the aliens could see several pieces of asteroid debris floating in space. The rocks were left over from the station's construction decades earlier, considered too small to be worth clearing away. The Thunderstrike's main guns rotated smoothly, targeting the debris. Brilliant beams of plasma energy lanced out from the destroyer, striking each asteroid with perfect accuracy. The rock simply vanished, vaporized instantly by the precisely controlled fire. Impressive accuracy, admitted Cultural Minister Sarthala. But those were stationary targets. As if in response to her comment, the Thunderstrike launched a dozen small drones from its fighter bays. The robotic craft began moving in random patterns, simulating enemy fighters in combat. The destroyer's point defense systems activated. Streams of energy weapons tracked the fast-moving drones with inhuman precision. Within 30 seconds, all 12 drones had been destroyed without a single shot missing its target. Dr. Sullivan was recording everything on her datapad. Our targeting computers can track over 1,000 individual objects simultaneously, she explained. The reaction time is measured in microseconds. Trade Representative Kixara's tentacles writhed nervously. What about defensive systems? Even the best weapons are useless if a ship can't protect itself. Good question, Hayes replied. Brooks, can you show them our shields? The Thunderstrike moved toward a much larger piece of debris, a derelict cargo hauler that had been abandoned years earlier. The alien ship was roughly the size of a destroyer itself, making it a perfect target for demonstration purposes. We're going to simulate an attack on our ship, Brooks explained over the communication link. Watch our defensive screens. A shimmering barrier appeared around the Thunderstrike as its shields powered up. The destroyer then fired several shots at the derelict ship, causing it to explode in a brilliant fireball. The blast wave and debris cloud rushed toward the human vessel. The aliens watched in amazement as the explosion simply washed around the Thunderstrike's shields like water around a rock. Not a single piece of debris touched the destroyer's hull. Our shields can absorb the energy of a nuclear explosion, Dr. Sullivan noted casually. We developed the technology during our early space wars. General Thrakon felt his confidence cracking. The human ship had just demonstrated firepower and defenses that exceeded anything in the Galactic Council's arsenal. But he wasn't ready to admit defeat yet. All very impressive, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. But I notice your ship is moving rather slowly. Speed is crucial in real combat situations. Hayes smiled. You're right again, General. Brooks, show them what the Thunderstrike can do at full power. What happened next left the aliens speechless. The destroyer's engines suddenly blazed with incredible intensity. The massive ship accelerated from a dead stop to tremendous speed in just seconds. Moving faster than most alien fighters, the Thunderstrike performed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship its size. It spun, rolled, and changed direction with the agility of a much smaller vessel. The aliens realized they were watching technology that was generations ahead of their own. How is that possible? Whispered Commander Veltar. Improved engine design and computer-controlled inertial dampeners, Dr. Sullivan explained. Our crews can handle maneuvers that would crush most organic life forms. The demonstration continued with the Thunderstrike, showing off various other systems. Its sensors could detect objects at incredible distances. Its communication arrays could punch through interference that would blind alien ships. Its manufacturing bays could build replacement parts and even small vessels while in space. But the most shocking revelation came when Captain Brooks made a casual announcement. Just so you know, we're currently operating at about 40% power, she said. We don't want to damage the station's sensitive equipment with our full energy output. 40%? The aliens exchanged horrified glances. If this was less than half of the ship's capability, what could it do at full power? General Thrakon finally found his voice. Captain Brooks, you mentioned that this is a light destroyer in your fleet. What exactly does that mean? It means we have ships 3 times larger for heavy combat operations, Brooks replied matter-of-factly. The Thunderstrike is designed for patrol duties and escort missions. The observation deck fell silent as the implications sank in. The human ship that had amazed and terrified them was considered a small vessel by human standards. During the demonstration, several alien representatives had been quietly contacting their governments. Emergency meetings were being called across the galaxy as the news spread. The peaceful balance of power that had existed for millennia was suddenly in question. Commander Veltar noticed unusual activity on his sensors. There's a large fleet approaching the station, he announced nervously. 30 ships moving fast. The new arrivals weren't part of the Galactic Council. The aggressive Grithak horde had been monitoring Council communications, and they didn't like what they were hearing about powerful new humans. Warlord Skargeth's harsh voice filled the communication channels as his battle fleet surrounded Nexus Prime. Attention all vessels. The Grithak horde claims dominion over this sector, and all species within it. The humans will submit to Grithak authority or be destroyed. The peaceful first contact ceremony had suddenly become something much more dangerous. The aliens looked at the human delegation, wondering how they would respond to their first galactic crisis. Ambassador Carter seemed completely calm as he activated his communication device. Admiral Morrison, we have a situation here. Warlord Skargeth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher, watching the peaceful scene around Nexus Prime with disgust. The Grithak leader was a massive being, nearly 3 meters tall with thick armor plating covering his natural hide. His species had built their empire through conquest and intimidation. and they despised the Galactic Council's preference for talking over fighting. Pathetic, Skargeth growled, as he looked at the various alien ships floating around the station. They gather here to welcome new weaklings into their circle of cowards. His fleet of 30 warships spread out around Nexus Prime like a pack of wolves surrounding prey. The Grithak vessels were built for war, with heavy armor and massive weapons designed to frighten enemies into submission. Open all communication channels, Skargeth commanded. I want everyone to hear this. His voice boomed across space, reaching every ship in the station itself. Attention all vessels. I am Warlord Skargeth of the Grithak Horde. We claim dominion over this sector and all species within it. The humans will submit to Grithak authority immediately, or we will demonstrate why resistance is futile. On Nexus Prime's observation deck, the alien representatives watched the Grithak fleet with growing fear. The Horde had been threatening Council space for years, but they had never been bold enough to surround the neutral station. General Thrakon clenched his fists as he watched the enemy ships position themselves. This is an act of war. The Grithak have violated every treaty and agreement in the galaxy. Commander Veltar was frantically trying to contact Council military forces, but the nearest fleet was days away. The station's own defenses were designed to handle pirates and criminals, not a full battle fleet. Ambassador Carter remained perfectly calm as he activated his communication device. Admiral Morrison, we have a situation here. A hostile force called the Grithak Horde is demanding our surrender. Morrison's voice came through clearly from Earth, 20 light-years away. I see them on our deep space sensors, Ambassador. 30 ships, outdated but still dangerous. Do you need assistance? That might be wise, Admiral. Understood. Help is already on the way. The alien stared at Carter in confusion. How could help arrive quickly across such vast distances? Even the fastest ships took hours to travel between star systems. Skargeth's threatening voice continued to broadcast across all frequencies. Humans, you have 1 hour to surrender your ship and submit to Grithak rule. Resist, and we will show you the same fate that befell the last species foolish enough to defy us. Captain Brooks responded from the Thunderstrike, her voice calm and professional. Grithak Fleet, this is Captain Brooks of the UES Thunderstrike. We're here on a peaceful diplomatic mission. Please withdraw your ships to avoid any misunderstandings. Skargeth laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the communication channels. You think one ship can stand against 30? Your courage is admirable but stupid. Surrender now or be destroyed. I'm afraid I can't do that, Warlord. But thank you for the offer. The Grithak leader's patience ran out. Then you will learn the price of defying the Horde. All ships prepare to fire. At that moment, space around Nexus Prime suddenly filled with new contacts. Human warships began appearing out of nowhere, their advanced stealth systems deactivating to reveal the massive vessels that had been hidden all along. The aliens on the observation deck gasped as ship after ship materialized around the station. Destroyers, cruisers, and enormous dreadnoughts took positions throughout the area. The human Third Fleet had been shadowing the diplomatic mission, invisible to alien sensors. This is Admiral Morrison aboard the UES Defender, came a new voice over the communication channels. Grithak Fleet, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Skargeth stared at his sensor displays in disbelief. Where there had been empty space moments before, 60 human warships now surrounded his fleet. His 30 ships were suddenly facing twice their number, and the human vessels were clearly more advanced. Impossible, Skargeth muttered. How did they hide so many ships? The largest human vessel dwarfed everything else in the area. The Defender was a massive dreadnought, 5 times the size of the Thunderstrike and bristling with weapons that made the Grithak fleet look like ancient relics. Dr. Sullivan smiled as she watched the alien representatives' shocked expressions. Stealth technology, she explained quietly. We've been working on it for decades. Most alien sensors can't detect our ships when they don't want to be seen. Admiral Morrison's voice continued from the Defender. Warlord Skargeth, you have 2 minutes to begin withdrawing your forces. Any aggressive action against the diplomatic mission or Nexus Prime will be met with overwhelming force. The Grithak leader found himself in an impossible situation. His entire battle doctrine was based on intimidation and superior numbers. Faced with a larger, more advanced fleet, he had no idea how to respond. You cannot be everywhere at once, humans, Skargeth broadcast, trying to sound confident. We will remember this insult. Actually, we can be everywhere we need to be, Morrison replied. Our fleet deployment covers over 50 star systems. We've been watching your expansion for months, Warlord. This seemed like a good time to introduce ourselves. One of Skargeth's ship commanders spoke urgently over the private Grithak channel. Warlord, their weapons are locking onto us. Our shields won't stop those energy signatures. Skargeth realized that his choice was simple: retreat or be destroyed. The Grithak horde had never faced an enemy this powerful. Grithak fleet, withdraw to minimum safe distance, he ordered reluctantly. We will discuss this matter later. The alien battle fleet began moving away from Nexus Prime, their retreat visible to everyone watching. The mighty Grithak horde, which had terrorized the galaxy for decades, was backing down from humanity's first show of force. Ambassador Carter turned to address the stunned alien representatives. As you can see, humanity takes the safety of our diplomatic mission seriously. We also extend that protection to our allies. Speaker Zethmos found his voice after several minutes of shocked silence. Ambassador Carter, I believe we need to discuss the terms of full council membership for your species. I thought you might feel that way, Carter replied with a slight smile. Trade Representative Kixara was already calculating the benefits of allying with such a powerful species. What technologies would humanity be willing to share with council members? Dr. Sullivan opened her datapad. We have several proposals for mutual technological exchange. Our medical technology alone could extend the lifespans of most species by decades. Over the next few hours, the entire political structure of the galaxy shifted. The Galactic Council unanimously voted to grant humanity full membership with a permanent seat on the governing body. Defense treaties were signed, trade agreements were negotiated, and technology-sharing protocols were established. Colonel Hayes coordinated with alien military leaders to begin joint training exercises. The peaceful species of the Council finally had the military protection they needed against threats like the Grithak. Horde Captain Brooks received new orders from Earth. Humanity was no longer sending shuttles to alien space. From now on, they would send fleets. The balance of power in the galaxy had permanently changed. As the Thunderstrike prepared to return to Earth with a successful diplomatic team, Ambassador Carter looked out at the human fleet still protecting Nexus Prime. The aliens had expected a small shuttle with 3 frightened representatives. Instead, they had discovered that humanity was ready to take its place as a major galactic power. The age of human expansion among the stars had truly begun.